I am call. Okay, thank you.
You're all
I'll
set.
just get
Yep.
this off my screen now. All right. I am calling the Village of Cross Plains Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee for December 7th to order. Roll call, please.
Committee member Henry,
Here.
committee member Cutler,
Here.
committee member Hillebrand, trustee Paul Mikowski,
Here, sorry about that.
and President Langfeld.
Here. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee encourages input from residents. It may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. I don't see anybody else here, so we'll move on to reports. I have nothing outside of what's on the agenda. Does anybody else, any of the other committee members have something they'd like to report? Hearing nothing, I'll go to the finance director. Bobby, do you have anything you'd like to add that's not on the agenda?
No, thank you.
All righty, we will go to general business. Item 1 is discussion and possible approval of the November 2nd, 2022 Finance Advisory and Enhancement Committee minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a
Michael.
motion and second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in
Aye.
favor,
Aye.
say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. Number 2, update on leaf pickup pilot program. 2 things here. I ended up just today getting the data and the comments from Jerry. So I haven't really been able to put them into a formal memo to you guys. But I can tell you his feelings is we probably could, with a little bit of adjustments, go ahead and make this village wide. I think there will be some tweaking of other things. The one thing that was one of the highest things we have to change, and I don't know why we didn't catch it, was one of the pickup days was Thursday. And of course, that's the same thing for our trash and recyclables. So that was a little extra maneuvering around carts. So we just Thursday's not a good day to pick up leaves. And there's a few other things that he has, but what we really need to figure out tonight is what tool or mechanism are we going to use to collect feedback from the test area, from the residents. And I don't have a problem going through the neighborhoods again if it's a survey that we're going to hand out to people. I don't have a problem. So that shouldn't be a deterrent or an information sheet to send them to a website, but somehow we got to get some feedback from them. And I guess I'm open to any suggestions that people have.
I was gonna say, we don't have all their emails, so it's not like we can.
No,
Yeah.
the 2 things I've thought of is we give them a card that has like a Survey Monkey address, and then they go to it and like a lot of these businesses do, where there's 5, 6 questions and they answer it on there, and then that would calculate everything. Or we hand out a survey and ask them to drop them off at Village Hall. Those are the only 2 things that I can think of on how to do it.
I think your most success would be to do both. So do a paper survey that you drop off or mail out, however you choose to do it. And then whether you can put a not a barcode, but what are those little
QR
codes now you can
codes.
scan with your phone. Yeah, I don't know if you can do that or not, but either
Yeah.
that or a link. I mean, the QR code is nice because people can just wave their phone at it and all of a sudden the survey pops up, they take it, it's done. Some people will do that and some people would probably rather fill out the piece of paper, but either way, you got to leave them something because you can't email them digitally. So
Right.
I think the combination of a survey electronically and a paper one and see what you get.
Okay.
You
Any
can,
other idea?
you can easily email the QR code. I mean, you could put it in a PDF if you wanted to, but
But we
if
don't
you-
have the email addresses for all the residents. You're probably going to have
well,
to. type it up.
I was just thinking you might as well send them to the people you do have, just, it's one more, do a combo of the three and you pretty much got everybody.
Yeah, but I don't know if I have anybody's email. I mean,
Have
guess
you checked?
maybe I have Doc Essers because we teach hunter safety together, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a,
Doesn't the village have it if for people who are signed up for utilities online? Or a lot of people's email addresses are connected to their voter registration information, which is public information.
Yeah, using those two methods, we could get some,
oh,
maybe a lot of work, but
Well, it was, I just thought it was accessible when you guys said you didn't have all of them. I thought that meant you had some.
oh. Well,
not
we can
readily
cer-
available.
Okay.
I think it'd just be easier to mail them out or,
I really don't mind doing the walking. I do the walking anyways. This gives me purpose and a reason to walk. And it really didn't take very long. And really the only reason it took longer than it did is because I ended up talking with people, which I think is good anyways. Was able to explain things a little bit better. So I really don't have a problem walking that distance at all. And actually it's surprising there really aren't that many houses on the sides, you got the block and then the other block. Sometimes some of those blocks on Park Street don't even have a house facing them. They're all on the side streets and those are side yards. So it wasn't that bad. So I think that's what we'll do is we'll do a hard copy survey, and on that, if we can get one of those barcodes or whatever they're called again, we can do that. Otherwise, we just see if we can do a link to electronic survey.
Yeah, this is Michael.
Yeah.
The sustainability did a survey and like you're talking the QR code. Yeah, that'd be great. Or if you just even put the link on there, because older people aren't going to know how to use a QR code. You're or even if they're going to go online, typing in the link or be a lot easier. I know my parents wouldn't know how to use a QR code.
Yeah.
Second thing that we found out was we did get a fair amount of hard copies back. And the best way to do that analysis then was that people on the committee had we basically figured out that we had to enter those into the Survey Monkey anyway, because it was a lot easier to evaluate the results if they all went electronically. So that's just another thing that'll happen. I know with the sustainability, I think Bill had staff do it. I don't know if it was Becky or whomever, but Bill just gave them to somebody and they just did it in like 45 minutes. So that's just another aspect to this, that any hard copies will probably have to be manually entered electronically, because then we just have it all surveyed by or tallied by the computer.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was planning on doing.
Okay, just throwing out there what we learned when we did our survey, or what we did.
And that's what we did at the police department. The people that did hard copies, we just entered them into the database.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, well, and I guess, are you guys comfortable with just me putting one together and getting it out there? It's not going to be more than 4 or 5 questions.
Yeah, I'm fine. You're just gonna ask the simple things. Did this work well? How could it be
Yeah.
improved? Or
Right,
whatever.
right.
On a scale of 1 to 10, would you want this happening every year? Just things like that, or
Yes, yeah, you can probably come up with the 5 questions right here. It's not gonna
Right.
get real in depth. All right, I will do that, and I'm gonna actually try to get it done before Christmas, so it's fresh on people's minds right now. All right, any questions on that at all?
No.
All
Are
right,
you willing, are you going to put in a question asking if people would be willing to pay a small fee for the service?
yeah, I would, I will put something in there. It was gonna be more like you ask a general question, then you break it down, and then they have 1 through 5 to answer, you know, agree, strongly agree, neutral, you know, that type of, that's kind of how I was thinking of doing it. So, yes, one of the questions would be, are they willing to have taxes increase for the service? And I don't, Jerry doesn't think we have to, but that's something we should collect anyways. What we're thinking, just spitballing it today after the staff meeting, was and that was one of his things of recommendations that I read, would be that you would suspend brush pickup for that time period, which makes sense because otherwise the staff is out doing a lot. And then what slowed them down also was we only have 1 truck for the leaves to go into. So then while the one guy's taking the truck to the compost site, the other 2 just have to wait for them to come back. Now our compost site isn't that far away, but it's still 25, 30 minutes probably time. So the thought is if you had a second box or something, then you could just keep going. So there's some things that we'll have to kind of talk about and figure out. And then he thought we started October 10th. His thing was to start at the beginning of October. So there's some things we can tweak. We picked up leaves a lot more than any other jurisdiction, because we were doing it twice a week. And I looked at DeForest, they only have pickup 4 times per season. Madison is like, I think 1 or 2 times per season. So there's, I think we can do things that he feels we can do it with the staff, but those will work out later on.
Right, so like, as you increase the area, the frequency would go down.
Correct. Yeah. And like I say, I don't have a problem suspending brush. I think, I even asked him, I think even now picking up brush twice a month is far more than any other community that I know of. A lot of communities just have it twice a year.
I mean, how much of that are they picking up? I mean, do they find it valuable, or should we change it to something that's almost like appliances where you submit something and
Well,
have them pick it up?
According to him, they used to do it less frequently. I don't know if it was 4 times a year, twice a year, or whatever. But he said it just was so overwhelming that it would take like 2 weeks to get it all picked up. So this way it makes it so it's manageable within a day or 2. So it's kind of a I hit miss, but you know, I guess we just have to really look at the numbers a lot more on how much every Tuesday they spend. I got to believe in the middle of summer, if we don't have a major windstorm, that, I mean, there can't be that much coming down. And most people don't trim or trim back once you hit summer, because it's really bad for your plants and trees to do that. So we just have to look at that a little closer and see. Anything else on this? All right, we'll move to, I'll keep you posted and I'll send you a sample of the survey. So the next one is discussion and possible action regarding 2023 budget. And I guess what I really wanted there is just so you would have seen the budget memo that Bobby wrote to the board. I think it's important for you guys to see that. So that was really the main purpose of having this on the agenda. So you're aware of what information was given out at the budget meeting. So if you have any questions on it, now's the time to ask Bobby.
And tax bills are printed. You should get them in a day or two.
What are printed?
The tax bills are printed.
Oh, great. Should all celebrate that one.
I think the overall increase was like 2%. If your assessment stayed the same,
Oh, okay.
an increase. So. Manageable.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Bobby at all?
Yeah, I was wondering, I thought most of these major capital improvements already have been found ways to be funded, because isn't Melody's Acres playground equipment in a fund or something?
Well, all
The
of these,
Glacier Ridge one is.
Or the Glacier Edge? What are they doing over there?
well, we just got updated. They're gonna have a small park there, but it won't be put in until next year because they're still waiting for the equipment to come in, and there's a backlog like with everything else. Mike said, so when it does come in, we'll just store it until the spring and then install it. There was that one time, there's a drawing of what it's supposed to look like. I just don't remember it anymore.
So these are projects you guys have already figured out the funding for that just may run over and additional funding may be necessary for?
No, what you're seeing there for capital, those are the things that were items that were approved.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So these would be paid for by borrowing, or I guess most of those are borrowing,
Well, some of
either
the
general or.
some of the Brewery Road infrastructure is being paid by cash out of water
ARPA
and
funds. Yeah.
and sewer.
Any other questions on that?
No.
All right, and just another thing, not so much on the 2023, but actually for your information, for the 2024, I'm going to start, Bobby and I are going to be putting every board meeting, we're going to have, I don't know, no longer than a half hour, 45 minutes on learning the different aspects of budgets. I'm feeling it's extremely important for the board and staff. We talked about that today. They're going to be doing the same thing, is just understanding where the numbers come from. Our process is solid and very efficient, and staff feels very workable. But there's a lot of stuff that's done behind the scenes to get us to where the process kind of starts. And that's what we're going to try to educate the board on, what is the levy limit? How is that calculated? What are the rules to it? State aid, how is that calculated? Transportation aid, what do we go into when we look at base budgets, what factors are taken in? Same thing with benefits and wages. How do you work the numbers to get where you get every year? So we're gonna do that as a group versus just myself and Bobby doing it. So everybody has a much better understanding where the numbers are coming from, and it will certainly increase what's the word I'm looking for? Transparency to the process. So just to let you know, that'll be coming in the new year. We'll be starting basically in January doing budget stuff all the way through the year. That's just information. All right, I don't think we have any action that's needed on that. We'll go to number 4, discussion and possible action regarding assignments for budget adjustment plans. So we went through this at the staff meeting, so everybody should have received the copy with the red print on it. Oh yeah, there it is. So if you go through, there's a number of them that have been assigned to this committee. And it's just so you understand, this is just kind of where the starting point or the point, yeah, it's the starting point basically. So our first one on the list here, and I thought I got it all right from our last meeting. We're gonna create a transportation utility. Deb's volunteered to do the presentation for that. Deb, just so you know, I'm looking for February's meeting, the 4th Monday of February. If you're available for that meeting, that's where I'd like to put that in.
I think I can do that. Let me look at the calendar.
All right.
Is that meeting gonna also include discussion of the wheel tax? Because it is kind of an apples to oranges
Well,
conversation.
let me ask you
so-
something. Do you think it would be beneficial to have it on the same night, or should it be the following meeting? I'm worried that people are going to get confused between the two.
I can make pretty good handouts that tell the difference.
Okay, so you would handle both of them now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
all right.
said the 4th Monday of February,
the
so the
4th.
27th?
Is that, yeah, we meet on the 4th Monday of the month, so I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Yeah, I can be there.
All right, and Bobby, will you let Brian know then tomorrow? He should throw that on that agenda item, because I know he likes to keep them ahead of time. And Deb, you'll send Brian Mooney all the stuff that
Will
you
do.
want in the packet, so they have time to read it ahead
I
of
can do
time.
that.
Will we
All right.
like talk about it at our February meeting? Just
Sure.
so we know, like, not agree with, but just so we get a preview of what Deb's gonna talk about or not.
Oh, yeah, that's
You
fine.
don't want to be surprised?
No,
I thought in
that,
the past that we
that's a good
usually approve those as if they're coming
Right, from the committee.
from the entire committee and not just the individual, right?
right. But I think, I guess that's fine. In my head, I was thinking we've already approved both of them at an earlier time. So, but no, I think that's fine. I think it's a good thing to run it by, and yeah, we should have input if there's something we want to change in it. Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's a good idea. All right, the next one would be charge recycling fees on property tax bill instead of levying it for services. I know that is one of the things we can pull out. I have absolutely no knowledge of how that works. I know there's a delay. You can't do it one year and the next and blah, blah, blah. So there's rules and stuff. Is there anybody that has an interest in doing a little bit of research in that? Bobby, do you have any information on that?
I think just an article in a magazine or something. I can look what I got. Just be
Yeah, I have that part of. Yeah, no, I have that on a PowerPoint that I have that's talking about how to reduce what goes on levy limit, and that's one of the things you're legally able to pull off. But I believe you need to build a utility then fund or something like that, so it's a standalone. So
Could be,
then
yeah, I don't
instead, yeah, I think you have to do a separate charge for recycling or something. I don't know. If it's something that needs to be researched a little bit. If no one has a real interest on it, let's just table it for now, or just set it aside. We can come back and see what kind of a priority it is. Let me just see here, and then what's the next one? Goes all the way
Wouldn't
down.
our
one
trash and
is-
recycling people be able to give us some input on that? Town
I don't think they care how we collect the money.
I don't know. We can check with
I mean,
them.
I would think that they would be the first people that have different communities, and they probably know how different people do it, and maybe what they
Huh?
think works best.
You know, that's a good idea. Maybe they would know exact, what would be helpful is finding some community that does it. Then we could look at their material and see, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can, that's easy enough to inquire about.
It's at least worth asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one is considering adding a municipal room tax. This one I think is doable, and I don't have a problem looking into this.
But this
I
is
know we
basically just a future-proof thing because we don't have any rooms to tax at this point, but we assume at some point there will be an Airbnb, potentially a hotel that would need such,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it was very interesting. This is just a side note. But this year for deer hunting, I hunt up in Vernon County by Viroqua out there, and we ended up, there's an Airbnb of an old farmhouse that was remodeled, and that's what we did. And sure enough, Harmony Township in Vernon County, that only has 35,000 people in the whole county, had a room tax on that Airbnb. We ended up paying a room tax on there, and I thought, my goodness, that's amazing. But I think that's really something to look at, and who knows what happens around here with some of the developments, and start planning will encourage, or people will start doing Airbnbs here.
Was that in
So-
Sidey Howell?
What's that?
Sidey Howell, is that where you stayed?
No, it was called Farm Place or something. It was Harmony. It was on Ole, and the reason they make the money is about 5 miles from them is a barn that someone remodels, and they do events. So with all the weddings, they almost are booked every weekend, the farmhouse. And it was really interesting. But anyway.
My cousin's got a place there, and it might have been his. That's why I was asking.
Oh, but I thought the place was called Farm Home or Home.
We can talk about
Place.
it after the meeting. I'll look it up and see if I can find it.
Okay, small world if that's the case. All right, so I think I can take that one because we're in no big hurry on that. I just like to see how those things are set up and what the rules are. And then the next one, I've already started. So that's what we're going to be talking about later on. So we can, that one is pretty much taken care of right at the next item. And that's about it. So really, I think we should be able to, I'm trying to at least get all of these started in the first quarter of next year. And it'd be nice to have them moving through the process. So I think some of them we're almost there. Some of them we are there. So any comments or thoughts?
I'm curious about the staff one. Have you guys like reached out to maybe Madison College and seen if you can find the perfect all those trade programs? You might
You mean
be
you're
able
looking at
to find some new employees that way.
Well, I think what that was brought up on, and it made really good sense to me, when we're doing hiring, we're not going to hire anybody right now,
Yeah.
but when we hire, look at what other skill sets they may have. So expert in some of the small projects that need to be done around the village.
Yeah, I work
Good.
with, I'm sort of at the UW right now.
Uh-huh.
I work for the company that does all the food for team dining and at the Cole Center in Camp Randall. And the UW just has a steam fitter now that works with us who also can do refrigeration such. And he has been an amazing cost savings for us because the UW just pays his salary and we just supply him with all the parts he needs.
Yeah.
So, but I assume
I-
they pay him extra for that special expertise.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think that's something to take into consideration when we're evaluating uh, people that we were thinking of hiring. To hire an additional person to offset some of the costs we might consult with is just a matter of,
No,
hey,
I was just suggesting looking there, as you build a relationship with Madison College's trade departments now so that the next time you are looking, there is a new pool to look at.
sure, we can certainly do that. All right, any other ideas or comments?
Has Jerry decided when he's retiring yet?
He has not put in notice. We know the only people that have put in notice is Scott and Lisa. So we know they're leaving in first 2 weeks of January. That's the only that I've put notice in.
Okay.
All right. So we're at last one, discussion and possible action regarding the expenditure restraint program. What I'm looking for from you, I'm hoping you guys have read it. And the question is there enough there for you to somewhat understand how the program works? Not that you could sit down and fill out the form to commence, and is there anything more or less that should be added to this document?
Like, where is this document gonna go in terms of needing things added to it? Is this gonna be go to the board, or who are we writing it for?
Well, it's writing it for as the first step. It's
Okay.
going to the board. It's going to the board. And what I'm hopeful for is that we will use this as kind of to give us guidance on our budget planning and spending.
Sure.
I guess, the bottom line is I would like us to try to qualify for this program in as many years as we can. It's a substantial amount of money, I
Right.
think.
Okay, well, I mean, I read it a few times to try to understand it, and I guess the one thing would be, how would we implement this, or how would we know about it? I mean, it says that the consumer price index is published, by September 30th of the following year. Do we know, I guess my question is if the board is producing a budget for the following year, like they always do we know what are we able to calculate what the budget amount has to be and able to qualify for this for that next year in order to get the money for it?
Yep, so we get a notice. I don't remember which month exactly, but we get a notice of what our percentage is that we can increase. And then I have a tab on my budget spreadsheet that automatically fills in the calculations. And so I can check every time I make a change in the budget if we still qualify or not. So I have it all set up.
So, okay, so yeah, so once they tell us what the equalized value is and you get the consumer price, like they, or do they just send you a thing? If you're over this amount, you don't qualify? Like, is it that simple?
Yeah, so they just send a notice, and it says what the inflation number they give us plus what our growth number is. I think we get 60% of our growth percentage plus the inflation percentage. Yeah, they tell us exactly what our increase is for year over year budget to budget expenses.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah,
And that's what
Does it-
default,
Since inflation changes all the time, does the rates, or do they just use ones that inflation
They use
number?
no.
it
It
changes every year.
every year. Every year you have a different number because
Okay, but not within the
no, I
year.
think in the document it said
Oh.
it goes from October 1st to September 30th of the year before the budget. So when you're preparing your budget, you know, October, November, you like that's computed on, it ends on that September 30th. So it's the compute. So you're using a pretty recent inflation number.
Yeah, so for the 2023 budget, our inflation percentage was like 7 point something, and then our growth percentage was like 2 point something. So we could have increased our expenses by 9+% and still qualify. It was a pretty hefty number this year.
Right, right. Oh, wow, man, if they actually just tell you that, it seemed, for some reason I understood it was more esoteric, and if you made it, you got it. I didn't know it was like a defined amount that they actually tell you. That makes it a ton easier.
yeah, that's what I talked to Bill. That's what DeForest and Windsor does.
Right, because they get
And
the-
they do a percent of that. They don't, which is obvious. They don't go over it, but they do, I forgot what he told me, 65 or 70% of what that number
so that they
is.
always are increasing, but they're always preparing for the next year to stay under.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds great. Maybe if you include some of that stuff in here,
Okay.
you know, like, well, like put the document that you got from the state so we actually see what it is and see how it works. You know, like this is the document I got from the state for this last year. Oh, wow. They gave
No,
it
that's
to
why
you.
I'm bringing it up. I want to,
Like actually,
we can certainly do that. And that, I'm trying to make it so it's somewhat easy to understand because you have this, but you're also playing with the levy limit too. That's the other thing you got to remember. There's multiple things that you have to take into consideration.
right.
And that's what, if you talk to Bill, he's saying just about everybody's gonna make it because like what Bobby said, it was up to 7 or 9%. Well, most places can't go that high and still be under their levy limit. So they're automatically gonna make
Right.
it.
Okay. Do you want my thoughts on the document? I love the history, but it's a lot of history at the top. You could just use that first paragraph and go eligibility.
Well,
If you want
I
to,
know,
you
but-
know, you don't want to give the whole backstory on it.
Well, I don't know. Some people, it's always difficult in knowing how much people have or have what kind of understanding. So I feel it's important to at least give an overview and it's only 3 paragraphs of basically the program and then talk about eligibility to it. I don't know.
No.
Like I say, I think if you leave that out, it could open up a lot of questions. Here it just gives kind of the
Yeah.
background, but people don't have to read
Definitely.
it, but that's the thought
I would say that the
process.
document is really good. And as I said before, the one inclusion would be actually show that document that they sent from the state, because after reading all this, then I'd be like, oh, the inflation was this, this is our growth thing, this is how they computed it, bam. And this, like that really makes it solid for the board. So then the board knows at the next year's budget, did we get the expenditure restraint document?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think that's something we'll add to it. There's example.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can send that to
definitely.
you. Jay.
All right. Any other comments on
I
it?
guess the only thing I'm interested in is why we missed it those years, those 3 years in between there.
Well, I think I can guess at it. Inflation was under 2%. We probably didn't have a whole lot of
Growth.
growth, so the number was probably, I'm guessing the number was to 3.5% maybe. And we
Yeah, I
were
don't even
over
think
it.
it was that.
I mean, I think
No
I mean, I
more
think
2% range maybe.
the importance of getting that information in there is because the impression I think most people will take from this is that we weren't financially responsible and we missed out.
Well, I'm not going to argue that point.
Well,
I'm going to be one of those.
The
I
one,
could probably
year,
tell you
the-
why we missed it in 20. No, that's not. My ears are off. Sorry.
we missed it the year that we combined the
Oh,
Parks and Rec back into the general fund.
Yes.
So before, we didn't have to include all of the Parks and Rec budget, only the amount that we levied for. But then when we put them in the general fund, it included all of their expenses, and so that one really skewed the calculation. So that's why we didn't make it that year.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, I remember
That-
that.
That actually sounds like good information to have in a chart so that, as decisions come up in the next year that could affect the budget, you can go, oh yeah, we did this thing in 2020 and this is what it cost us, so that you don't make such errors again.
Well, let me tell you something. That wasn't an error. That is, Parks and Rec has never been an enterprise agency. It never makes as much as it spends. So it should have never been taken out and not used as an expense. That was in my opinion, and I'm not an attorney or an accountant, but it was my opinion to pull something out so you could get it because it lowered it. And I think we would have stayed on that because Parks and Rec is not an enterprise fund at all. It's nothing like sewer water.
Oh, that's fine. I just
Yeah.
meant so people have the knowledge of the
Right.
reasons things were missed so that they can have that in the back of their brains when other budgetary things come up.
Yep, no, point well taken.
Bobby, what does 91,000 equate to in revenue percentage of the village?
Like just the general fund budget, or
I guess what I'm trying to understand here is did we get an extra 1% by making this? Did we get 0.01%? Did we get 0.5%?
oh,
Like,
no,
I'm
it's
trying to
probably
figure
around
out, like,
1%.
Bobby, isn't the general fund and library about 3.5 million total? If I remember. So it's
I don't
three and
think
a
it's
half
that
million.
much. Like the total,
If you had library and general.
that would include debt service too. I think was
No,
the,
I'm putting debt.
I think our
service.
whole levy was 3
Yeah, it's in the memo. If you look at the memo,
Oh,
is
yeah.
it?
that tells you our total of everything.
This year's
No,
municipal
that's the
budget
limit.
is 3.4. Oh, no, the level.
That was the limit. And this is, this went up because we added some. stuff at the-
3.3, so 91.
But that,
Even if I just use 3.3 million, it's like 2.75% of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, our total revenues are more than this. That's just the tax revenue. So,
Oh, right. Oh, but that includes debt service and everything.
let's click on this link. Are you guys all following me still here?
yeah.
Am I working?
I mean, I guess the percentage is important to me because if it's a drop in the bucket, if it's 0.01%, like it's great to know how important or how impactful that money is. I don't want to lose 91,000 anytime, but how much of an influence should it have is what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, it's a huge influence. Look at, if you go back to her budget memo, we're about $97,000 under the, right? When you look at that. So you take away that 91,000, we would have had to use other revenues to cover that. So we would have been $6,000 roughly under the levy limit versus 97,000. That's significant to me. That's huge. So I hear what you're saying by percentage of the budget. I agree with you on there, but it's still, like you say, that's a huge chunk of change for us. Now, City of Madison probably won't even bat an eye at that, but for us, with that money. And I'm of the opinion we should do everything we can to continue to get that money.
I mean, we should always try to get free money when we can get it.
Exactly. And, you're just hoping, since both the Republicans and the Democrats in the state are for helping out municipalities, that with the $6.6 billion in surplus, hopefully we'll get something from that to help a little bit.
I wouldn't hold your breath, but
All that. Well, no, but I could see them easily raising the amount in the pool, in 2020, it was, $5 million. I could see them bouncing it up to 7 million. What's 2 million out of 6.6 billion,
yeah.
right? But yet that would have a pretty big impact. So I think we got to really keep an eye on this. And I think we can, I can give probably, add some more data points to this. I think you guys have brought up some good stuff that we should add to it, data points.
Yeah, I definitely agree that this should be something that the village board is definitely conscious of when going through the budgeting process.
Yeah.
I
All right.
I could see situations where it would help decide. I mean, I could easily see in a year when you decide to hire another full-time employee that getting this could be very difficult because you're adding $60,000 to $70,000 in expenditure you didn't have the year before. And if you adjust other things and you still qualify for it, then it turns into this big balancing act.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's exactly right.
Bob, are you the only one that is basically overseeing this? Is there somebody else
correct. I'm the only,
that's aware of it?
I mean, obviously Jay, but Brian would know about it.
I mean, my point of the question is, I mean, if you were sick or if you were out on leave or if you left the position, how do we make sure that someone is tracking this if it's not you? Or is there at all times two people?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they use the budget spreadsheet the template that we have been using, like I said, it's a tab on there, it'll automatically calculate. And hopefully Jay or Brian, whoever is still around, can mention it.
I mean, I guess the question then is that something that needs to come up every year at a certain date within the village board and be set on the agenda, or a note that makes sure that we check on this?
Well, like I say, my long-term plan on this is that we actually use that as one of the factors
In budgeting.
when we discuss budgeting and how much much we can afford
Okay.
to spend in a particular year. That's what I'm hoping. Instead of, see, my feeling is, this has just been one of those, if we hit it, great, we get it. But it's, I've never, in all the times I've been on the board, where that has been part of the discussion of saying, hey, this is what the limit is, we've got to try to make this. Now, maybe behind the scenes, when I was a trustee, it was happening. But I've never seen that as a
Right, it's never been no one's ever
open
asked, hey, or how are
factor
we doing
in
for
discussing
expenditure restraint?
how much we want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, and I agree.
And I'm
And
trying
also-
to change that. That's kind of the goal of this, is to change it, that we do take this into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. If it's over 2% of our budget, I say in all the time that I've been a trustee, it always seemed like we were either going to get it or not. I didn't know there was this decided formula and a thing mailed to the village where we could have used it as a
Yeah, so I don't think we get that till
guide or
October.
a
'cause we used to
consideration. Yeah.
through September. So, we wouldn't get our percentage till.
Right, absolutely. So that'd be like at the October village board meeting, this could be presented as extra information when we discuss the budget.
But there must be something out there, because Bill, when we were in DeForest, said that everybody should make it next year. And you even said during the, I don't know if it was a staff meeting or budget meeting, that we're probably going to get it next year. So I'm not really, so you must have
Well,
the number or
Jay, I think he
something
was
to
just
know
basing that
that.
off the fact that the inflation rate had been at 5 or 6, 7, that they've been telling you the inflation rate like in August, you knew it was going to be really high. And that's why he was just
Oh.
projecting everyone was going to qualify,
Oh, I see. Okay.
because inflation was going to be so high, no one was going to, hopefully blow their budget up way more than that.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, so here's what I think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to add to this, and then I'll bring it back at January's meeting. And then we can take another look at it, and you guys can see
I
what you
would
think.
suggest less words and more graphics. The average person doesn't read all the words anymore. They like
Well-
pretty pictures.
I know, but then I'm gonna be accused of, well, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. I agree, I'm gonna put more in, but I do
Yeah,
believe you
I'm
gotta
just saying
explain the
there's
program.
other ways to do it besides a wall of text. People just kind of
Well-
zone out with that.
Well, Deb,
Well,
Jay's only good at Microsoft Word, so we,
Yeah. Well, if someone wants to take a crack at it and do it, I mean, when you look at the program itself, it's pages long. I thought I did a pretty good job on getting it down to 2 pages, but if someone can knock more off, but I personally, again, I just come from my point of view of, I kind of want to know how things work, not just how they end up. But if someone has some things that they want to wordsmith this a little differently, give it a shot. I just don't think it's that much to read. It's pretty, I space things out, and it's size 12. I mean, it shouldn't take anybody more than a minute and a half to read this.
No, it's
I mean, it is pretty cut down to, what it could be.
so now. Can
But
I want to talk about sort of something we were talking about before that coincides with this, right?
Yeah,
Inside of here, I mean, you were talking about the recycling piece paid
Yeah.
for solid waste disposal is excluded from the general fund expenditures. In order to qualify for that under this expenditure restraint program, do we actually really have to remove them from our general budget and put them, or our general fund and put them under something else? Or does the state on its form allow us to remove that at cost?
no, you have to have it. I believe, and I'm just speaking, I believe it's got to be its own fund, which means you have to separated and you have revenue and expense to it. That's what I was saying is utility. I think you got to do the same thing with it being outside the levy limit too. Bobby, do you have any more insight on that?
No, the only thing I know is if you do the garbage, then you have to remove that from your levy limit and that calculation, but the recycling, you can move off the levy and not have to adjust your limit. That's why I only proposed moving the recycling and not both.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait. Say that again, Bobby, please. I'm trying to process.
So if we charge residents for garbage pickup on their tax bill, we have to adjust our levy limit by that amount.
Oh,
But if we
oh,
move the
so
recycling off the levy, we don't have to adjust our levy limit.
gotcha. It's just one less piece of work.
Well,
Yeah, because I think we're required by law for garbage pickup, but we don't have to provide recycling pickup. Wondering if that's,
Gotcha.
Recycling's probably an elective service,
yeah,
essentially.
Which is why I think they're allowing you to remove it from your general fund expenditures for this thing because it's elective. It's not required under statute, I imagine. So that's why they're letting you take it out.
that's something we'll just have to check in. I personally thought there was a state statute that required people to recycle, but
So, Bobby, is every community automatically entered into this program, or do you have to fill out a form on a web page with like the Department of Revenue to qualify for this?
yep, so I think the deadline's May 31st, or May 1st, it's in May. I have to I have to report what our budgets are, and then,
Uh-huh.
I can include that report also. Okay, so not only the,
It looks like filling out a tax document. I pulled it up
Oh.
while we've been talking.
See, I wonder if on that documents you're allowed to pull out your expense for recycling, because if you are, then we don't have to turn it into a utility. If it's like if it allows that deduction, like on taxes, it's just the thought, so we don't have to go through that whole entire utility thing, and we can still get the money reduced so that we qualify for the expenditure restraint better. We'd have to look at how that form is structured. These are just off the wall thoughts. You know.
I'm looking at an article now from the mayor of Washburn, who thinks that levy limits cripple
yeah,
municipalities.
but that's different. You're
Um,
talking, that's a whole different thing.
Okay.
Levy
Oh.
limits is basically a calculation on how much municipality can spend. This program rewards people that keep spending to what they consider a fair increase. So they're two different things, even though they're related. Obviously, even though you could be under the expenditure restraint program. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I got to do with the board, and I'm going to do that, is we need to understand what these terms mean. While they're tied together, they're totally different. One is a reward and one is a cap.
Yeah, I just found a different thing. It says for payment purposes, municipal budget is defined as general fund expenditures excluding principal and interest on long-term debt, recycling fees paid for solid waste disposal, revenues shared with other local governments, and unreimbursed expenditures related to emergencies declared by the governor. So.
Well, if I heard you correct, it said recycling when you're with another municipality, did it say?
Recycling fees paid for solid waste disposal. So I don't know if that is everyday recycling or sewage solid waste disposal.
No, that's all recycling.
So, I mean, is this something that can be sent to Jay and brought back to us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already said one link to Bobby. I'll send
Yeah,
another out.
we'll take a look at that.
Thanks, Deb.
I researched, therefore I am.
All right, anything else? All right. Do we have any future items that people want to have on the next agenda?
It might not be a future thing, but where we stand on this thing? Have we tried to get a refund from MG&E?
All right, well, we've been pushing for them to get us the, say that I guess they were supposed to get back to Brian. I'm thinking he brought it up at looking at going to the PSC on it. I think we're getting close or the number. Now we just are looking at how we're going to resolve the ownership part. So I guess we can on the next one. I don't remember Ryan me last week, but I just forgot. And gave me a date when they were going to respond back to him. I just don't remember.
Is everybody back? I lost everybody.
We must have gone over our hour.
Yeah.
Nope, I think my internet got.
And so I'm just curious. I just might make that phone call to figure out why things aren't getting done.
Well, why don't you hold off a little? Let all of a sudden. You what?
The meeting stopped.
sucks.
It says recording on mine.
It stopped and she restarted. It looked like,
Oh, is she gone?
no, she's there.
Okay. Anyways, just I would hold off a little bit. Let us kind of work through this a little bit more, and let's put it this way. I will contact you before I go to the formal process.
Okay.
How's that? Any other future agenda items?
No.
All right. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will
Second,
second. Oop,
All right.
Deb.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed, same. Thank you. And I know this one went a little bit longer than they usually do, but there's a lot of good stuff here and good feedback, so I appreciate it.
Okay.
have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Good night, everyone.